In today's video, we continue on with our NHL GM Report Card series. We're looking at teams in the Pacific Division. Right now, we're looking at the Vegas Golden Knights. They had a lot of significant changes. A lot of players have left town. We'll grade the trades, the signings of GM Kelly McCrimmon coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we look at the Vegas Golden Knights in our NHL GM Report Card series, and we grade the work of GM Kelly McCrimmon. The Golden Knights have seen a fairly significant turnover in players, with a lot of fairly big name guys leaving town this offseason. They brought in some replacements, but are they the same team? Are they really better? Or could this team regress? We'll take a look and analyze and give our grade here throughout this video. Let's start first with the trades that we saw the Golden Knights make, and there were two this offseason. We saw them make a trade with the New Jersey Devils, acquiring young goaltender Akira Schmid and young forward Alexander Holtz. Of course, Holtz was a former first-round pick. They get them from New Jersey in exchange for Paul Cotter and a 2025 third-round pick. I don't mind this trade. I mean, I was a little bit confused by the Devils. I thought the Devils could have done better to get, for a better return for these two young players. So in all honesty, from Vegas's point of view, I like this deal. They need more youth in their lineup. That gives them a guy like Schmid, who can, hopefully, if he continues to develop, be a regular part of the goaltending tandem maybe in a year or so. He definitely, I think, needs some more time in the minors before he can really be a full-timer. He has had his moments where he looked really good in New Jersey, and he had his times where, maybe he was overworked and struggled. So I think it's fair to say that he's not really positioned right now to be a full-time NHL goalie, but he's, to me, a pretty good number 3. Alexander Holtz is also somebody who hasn't been consistent, but also hasn't, I don't think, really had a fair, consistent chance to really play with a lot of offensive players playing more of a role, destined for the bottom 6. So at the same time, I like this deal for Vegas. I don't have any complaints whatsoever. They end up trading goaltender Logan Thompson, who apparently made it known to the team that he would appreciate a change of scenery. It was actually where they were hosting the draft. He was actually, when the trade was announced, he was actually in the building doing an autograph session. Apparently, he already knew about the trade before the announcement came. He had found out earlier in the day, before he got to the arena. So it wasn't a big shock to him while he was doing autographs, but it was kind of, unique in a sense that he's there representing the Golden Knights doing autographs. And then the trade announcement comes out while he's doing it. So he goes to Washington for 2 third-round picks. It's not a bad return, but, obviously Thompson's a goalie who's battled some injuries, but it's also a bit of a late bloomer. I think he'll fit in quite nicely in Washington. And for Vegas' standpoint, I think they would have been better off keeping him, but at the same time, he wanted out. So they accommodated that deal, and they got an okay return. So far, from the trade perspective, not doing too badly. Looking at their signings internally, a lot more guys left than they were able to keep. The only ones they were able to re-sign was Caden Korczak. He gets a 2-year deal, $825,000. Nothing too significant there. Pavel Dorofeyev gets a 2-year deal at $1.83 million. Pretty good signing there. He's certainly proven that he can play. I have no problem with that contract. And of course, after acquiring him, they had to sign RFA goalie Akira Schmid, who gets a 2-year deal at $875,000. So again, no problems with any of those signings. They're short term, not a lot of money, and nothing too crazy. Externally, they brought in a few UFAs, but nothing too crazy. They bring in Ilya Samsonov, formerly of the Toronto Maple Leafs and Washington Capitals. He comes in to replace Logan Thompson. He gets a 1-year deal at $1.8 million. So really, for Samsonov to come in and partner with Adin Hill at 1.8, I don't mind that signing. Samsonov hasn't been all that bad in Toronto. Yeah, he might have, like some other goalies, maybe not gotten the job done in the big moments, but it's a team game, and really, it's not like he was bad in Toronto. I just think they at times had really high expectations for him, and maybe he fell short a bit, but for that kind of money, I don't have any issue with it. They also signed Zach Astor-Reese, a 1-year contract at league minimum. No big deal there. Robert Hagg comes in as a veteran defenseman, 1 year at league minimum. They bring in Victor Olofsson from the Buffalo Sabres, 1-year deal, just over $1 million. So really nothing crazy at all. The problem here mostly is that they've lost a lot of players. So the guys coming in, Samsonov will be on the roster for sure, being the backup or 1A, 1B, whatever you want to call it, with Adin Hill. Olofsson likely makes the roster, but Aston Reese and Haig probably are extras that probably have to go to the minors. Looking at the guys they sign internally, Dorofiev will have a spot in the lineup. The other two, Korczak maybe, but probably not. They're probably going to be in the minors too. So if you look at the addition subtraction part of their video here and look at what left town, it's like I don't have any issues with the signings they did make, but man, are they not nearly as good as the players that left. So let's look at addition subtraction. So to summarize, coming in, you get Ilya Samsonov, Zach Aston-Reese, Victor Olofsson, Robert Haig, Alexander Holtz, and Akira Schmid. So yeah, I mean, nothing crazy. Samsonov will be a decent, like I said, tandem goalie. Olofsson, hard to say. Seems like everybody that goes to Vegas does well. He might be able to give him 15, 20 goals. We'll see. And Holtz will hopefully get more of a chance to play. But going out, they lose Jonathan Marchessault, Conn Smythe Trophy winner, longtime Golden Knight since the beginning days. Very productive time there. They lose Chandler Stevenson, who was a very important center iceman for them. They lose Michael Amadio, who came over and found his game again. Everybody that seems to go to Vegas, that seems to improve. Paul Cotter, of course, was involved in that deal in New Jersey. Veteran defenseman Alec Martinez is not re-signed. Anthony Mantha, who was acquired at the trade deadline, is not brought back. William Carrier, longtime Golden Knight, he also departs via free agency. And then goaltenders Logan Thompson, who was traded, and Yuri Patera, who was not retained. So really, if you take a look at it, in their top 9 of the forward group, that's 3 regulars in Marchessault, Stevenson, and Amadio. And looking at the spots where the Mantha normally played after being acquired, you could make an argument of just like 4 guys, and the top 9 not there anymore. So, then you get William Carrier and Paul Cotter, who were, especially Carrier, a longtime member of the bottom 6 and one of your goalies. So there's significant change. And Alec Martinez was a pretty good defensive defenseman for them too. So looking at the new look Golden Knights, you're probably going to have a top 6 of Eichel, Stone, Barbashev. Those 3 guys will be in the top 6 for sure, along with Tomas Hertl. The other 2 guys that complete that bottom 6 are probably going to be maybe Olofsson, Dorofiev, or do they put Brett Howden up there? Howden might get more of a third-line role. You still got William Karlsson and Holtz. I would suspect guys like Brendan Brisson, and we'll get more ice time. Nikolai Waugh, Kolazar will be in there. So, they're not terribly weak, but they are going to be weekend for sure. But still down the middle, Eichel, Hertl, Karlsson, and then Waugh still have really good center depth. On the wings, it's not going to be quite as strong. So you got Barbashev, you got Stone, and after that, there's going to be a drop-off for sure. Obviously Marchessault played a lot with Eichel too, and good connection there. So hard to say what happens. I mean, you could put Stone with Eichel or Hertl. I'm not sure how they'll exactly do their lines. On the back end, you're going to have Hanifin, Pietrangelo, Theodore McNabb, Haig Whitecloud. So again, the blue line's still pretty good too. So it's not like this team is really going to be drastically worse. But I do think it's fair to say they're going to regress at least some. Now, like I said, they lost 3 long-time regulars in their top 9. If you want to count Mantha in there, then, it's another one. You got to really hope that Olofsson comes in, and can get the job done. Will Dorofiev have a more solid, consistent spot there? Or is it guys like Howden or Holtz going to play their way into that spot? They've lost not only those guys, but a couple other, bottom 6 and defensemen. So you got 5 or 6 regular guys gone from the lineup now, right? Of course, they added Hanifin and Hertl at the deadline, and that kind of sealed the fate for a lot of these UFAs. There's just no way they didn't have the money to bring them back. So guys like Marchessault and Stevenson, obviously, they've played big roles for this team, and they definitely weren't able to come back because of that. So I do think the forward group is definitely not as deep. Down the middle, they're still in really good shape. But on the wings, they're a lot weaker for sure. So in all honesty, the decore's pretty much the same. You take out Martinez, but you have Hanifin for the whole season. You still got McNabb, Theodore, Pietrangelo, Haig Whitecloud. Overall, that's pretty good. Goaltending will be interesting. Hill and Samsonov both have injury histories. So they've already, and not to mention, Thompson's been hurt, going back to Robin Leonard. even Brossois when he was there. The Golden Knights have been absolutely cursed with goaltending injuries the last couple of years, last 2 or 3 years. So really, you got to hope that doesn't follow suit, because that could be a major factor in this outcome of their season. I still think they'll be in contention for the top 3 in the Pacific Division, but I think they're weakened enough that teams like Edmonton, Vancouver might not really have too much of a difficulty being ahead of them. So overall, I mean, it's largely because of their cap space long term. I'm giving Kelly McCrimmon a grade of a D. He lost a lot of players, and this team, like I said, in the forward group especially, is not as deep, not as strong. I still think they're going to be a good team, even with everything they lost. Like I said, to have the center depth and the D depth the way they do is still pretty impressive. But if their goaltending is, if they have injuries there, and if you get Stone missing significant time, which has been a common theme here in recent years, Eichel's had his fair share of stuff going on. So has Hertl. Injuries could derail this team a lot more than before, because they're not as deep to be able to make up for it. So, in all, I really think the Golden Knights, at some point in time, you're going to see a regression. You're going to see them lose players because they can't keep up cap-wise. It's starting to affect them now. Like I said, it was a big impact here, losing 3 of their top 9 guys, plus a little bit on the bottom 6 and back end. It's only a matter of time that could continue, right? So we'll see what happens. But for me, Vegas is not drastically weaker, but definitely weaker. And Kelly McCrimmon, it might not. You might argue that he did okay with what he had, but the situation they're in is also because of him. Now, meanwhile, they do have a Stanley Cup out of it, right? Recently, so it's not like this was all for naught. It was. They got their success, and now they're paying for it. So it's just the way it goes. So it wasn't a great offseason for Vegas at all. But that's kind of the way things go. When you're successful and you win, it gets more challenging, and now they're really facing that. So let me know what you think on the Golden Knights offseason and how you'd grade the work of GM Kelly McCrimmon. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.